This is 103.7 FM, and I'm Jack Daniels. I'm speaking to you tonight from the outskirts of Philadelphia, what used to be a city lit up with neon, traffic, and the glow of millions of screens. Now it's nothing but shadow and silence. It's just past 11 p.m. Here, the air outside is colder than it should be for late August, and the only sound carrying through the empty streets is the hum of my backup generator. That generator is the only reason my voice is reaching you right now. The grid went down 2 nights ago. At first, people thought it was a rolling blackout, the kind the power company always warns us about in the heat of summer. But the lights never came back on. The phones never buzzed again. The internet stayed dead. And by yesterday morning, it was clear. This wasn't local. This wasn't regional. This was nationwide. Stores open. No rules. What's the first thing you grab before the shelves are empty? Let me know in the comments below. I've worked in this booth for more than 20 years. I've talked through storms, through protests, even through that hurricane when the Schuylkill overflowed and half the city flooded. But I've never once sat here knowing that everything outside the walls of this station had stopped working. Cars sit dead on the interstates, abandoned in lines that stretch for miles. People tried to walk home with their groceries and bags slung over their shoulders, but no one ever made it far before exhaustion or fear set in. The night swallowed them, and then the city swallowed them too. From up here I can see downtown, and it looks like someone reached down and plucked the beating heart out of the skyline. Not a single window glows. The first night, there were still voices. You could hear people yelling from their balconies, calling to each other in the dark, lighting candles in their windows like ships on a black sea. But now, silence. Just silence, broken every once in a while by something you don't want to hear. Glass breaking, a gunshot, the distant crackle of a fire that no one can put out. It's hard to put into words what a city feels like without power. It isn't just the lights. It's the refrigerators that don't hum, the air conditioners that don't kick on, the traffic lights that don't blink, the televisions that don't drone. It's like the pulse of human life stopped beating, and all that's left is the raw, empty quiet of stone and pavement. The government, at least what's left of it, hasn't said a word. No emergency broadcasts on the usual frequencies, no updates from FEMA, nothing from the White House. Just silence. Some say it's because their systems are down too. Others whisper that they've gone into their bunkers and sealed the doors. A friend of mine who used to work as an engineer at Pico told me right before we lost cell service that what we're seeing isn't a simple failure. Power grids are designed with redundancies. One part goes down, another picks up the slack. But all of it fell at once. That doesn't happen naturally. It's too clean, too sudden. He thought it could be a cyber attack, something targeting the grid itself, tripping every breaker, overloading every system, frying the equipment. If he's right, then it wasn't weather. It wasn't chance. Someone did this to us. I keep thinking back to that moment the lights went out. I was in the studio. The board went dead, the screens blinked off, and the city outside the windows seemed to inhale all at once. I'll never forget the sound of everything stopping at the same time. The whir of the fans died. The lights in the hallway popped off, and out the window, block after block went black until there was nothing left but the stars overhead. I didn't know you could see that many stars above Philadelphia. Maybe it should have been beautiful, but all I felt was dread. Tonight, the generator is still running, but I don't know how much longer it'll hold. I've got a drum of diesel stashed in the storage closet, enough maybe for another few days if I ration it carefully. After that, I'll have to shut down, unless I can rig something up or trade for fuel. I don't know if anyone else out there can even hear me, but I'm going to keep talking as long as this old machine will let me. Because if we let silence take over, then we're already finished. Right now, if you're listening, I need you to know what's happening. This isn't a storm or a glitch. This is something bigger. The whole of North America is in darkness. Planes fell from the sky when their electronics failed. Hospitals lost their machines. Traffic ground to a halt. And every hour that passes, the world we built on top of wires and power lines slips further away. If you've got a radio, keep it close. If you've got candles, guard them. If you've got neighbors, don't turn them into enemies, because soon, survival is going to depend on whether we stand together or fall apart. This is Jack Daniels, 103.7 FM, and I'm still here. If you're still there, hold on. The lights aren't coming back tonight, but maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to live without them. It's now close to midnight, and I can hear the wind scraping against the walls of the station like it's trying to remind me how fragile this place really is. The backup generator makes the walls vibrate in a steady rhythm, almost like a heartbeat, and every time it coughs or sputters, I wonder if that's it. If the voice I've kept alive for you dies with it. I can't shake the feeling that this signal might be the last thread connecting us. The city feels like a corpse lying still under the weight of its own silence. And here I am, whispering into its ear, hoping somebody out there is listening. I left the studio earlier today, just for a while, to see what's happening out there. The streets were worse than I imagined. Rows of cars, frozen mid-commute, some with doors open where people had run when the engine stopped. Burnt-out husks of delivery trucks scattered near Market Street. I saw a woman dragging a suitcase down the middle of the road, her child asleep on top of it like it was a bed, and I didn't have the courage to call out. There was no point. I had nothing to offer her but words, and words don't keep people fed. Trash is piling up, food is spoiling, and water pressure is starting to fade in some parts of the city. A few people are gathering around the Schuylkill River, filling jugs and bottles, but I wouldn't drink it without boiling it first. If you're hearing me, if you still have firewood or propane, guard it. Water is already becoming the first weapon in this fight, and those who have it will decide who survives. I've been trying to catch other stations, sweeping across the frequencies, hoping to hear another voice. Nothing. Just static. The airwaves used to be so crowded. Sports broadcasts, talk shows, late-night music. Now it's like shouting into an empty canyon. I thought I heard something faint at 7:40 a.m., a crackling voice reading numbers, but it was gone before I could lock it in. I don't know if it was another survivor or just the generator spitting interference into the night, but I'll keep scanning. That's what we have to do now. Listen, and keep listening. Somebody passed me a rumor this morning. Said they overheard a man swearing he saw military trucks moving out toward I-95, headed south. No lights, just convoys rolling silent through the dark. Another said the army had sealed off sections of Washington, D.C., and was keeping people out. If that's true, then maybe the government isn't gone. Maybe they're regrouping underground. But if that's true, then it means they've abandoned the rest of us. It means we're not part of the plan anymore. That's a hard truth to swallow. The scariest part is not knowing. We don't know if this blackout is permanent. We don't know if the equipment's fried, or if someone is deliberately keeping it dead. We don't know if it's sabotage, an attack, or something else altogether. And in that vacuum of not knowing, people start to make their own truths. Already there are whispers. Whispers of revenge, of looting, of blaming neighbors. Humanity doesn't need the lights off to turn on itself, but the darkness sure makes it easier. I keep telling myself this isn't the end, but tonight, looking out across a skyline that used to glow like fireflies, I feel that dread creeping deeper. Maybe this is how civilizations end, not with an explosion, but with the slow suffocation of silence and the flicker of candles that burn out one by one. If you're listening to me right now, know this. Keep your radios off most of the time to save power. Turn them on only at the top of the hour, and I'll do my best to be here with updates. If my signal goes quiet, wait. I'll find another way to reach you. And if you're within walking distance of Philadelphia, don't come here. This city is already eating itself alive. Find high ground. Find rivers. Find small groups. Big crowds are dangerous now. It's midnight, and this is Jack Daniels on 103.7 FM. The grid is gone, but the human voice isn't. Not yet. Hold on, we're still breathing. It's after 1 in the morning now, and the weight of this silence presses heavier than it did yesterday. I think it's because the city is starting to settle into the realization that the lights aren't coming back on. On the first night, there was shouting, panic, people honking horns even when their cars had no chance of starting again, as if sheer noise could bring the engines back to life. On the second night, there was chaos, fights breaking out at gas stations, crowds surging through darkened supermarkets. But tonight it's different. The chaos has quieted, but it's the kind of quiet that feels more dangerous than the riots. People are conserving their strength now, waiting, watching. Desperation is shifting into calculation. I walked north earlier, past Girard Avenue, to see what people were doing. Whole apartment blocks had been turned into fortresses, windows boarded from the inside, stairwells blocked with furniture. One group had lit a fire in a steel drum out front, and they were armed. Baseball bats, pipes, anything they could hold in their hands. They didn't say a word to me, just stared as I passed, their faces lit by the flames. That's what it's coming to. Neighbors who used to share beers on the porch are now standing guard with weapons in their hands, deciding who gets close and who gets turned away. At Broad and Thompson, I found a line of people sitting along the sidewalk, passing buckets of water drawn from a busted hydrant. It looked organized, almost like a community effort, but the smell gave it away. That water was foul, and if they drink it as it is, sickness will spread faster than the blackout ever could. I thought about warning them, telling them to boil it, but how do you boil water when your stove is electric and your matches ran out 2 days ago? Some of them were already sipping it down. If you're out there listening, I'm telling you now, don't trust what comes out of the hydrants. Find clean sources if you can. Bottled water, sealed tight. Streams if you're near them. If you have no choice, make fire and boil it. It could be the difference between living another week and not waking up tomorrow. The thing gnawing at me is this silence from Washington. I've scanned every emergency band I know. Nothing. Even in the worst storms, even after 9/11, there was always a government voice on the airwaves, some pre-recorded loop telling people to stay calm, to shelter, to trust the system. But now, nothing but static. That tells me two things. Either their systems are down too, or they've chosen not to reach out. And both possibilities are equally terrifying. I remember talking once with a retired lineman who worked on power systems out west. He told me that the grid was more fragile than people realized. All those lines, all those substations, they're tied together like threads in a spider's web. Knock one or two out, the rest compensates. But if you hit the web in the right place, if you break the structure itself, it collapses all at once. He used to joke that if the wrong person had the right knowledge, they could send us all back to the 1800s in an instant. I laughed when he said it. It doesn't sound funny anymore. Tonight, sitting here in the dark with only this dim glow from my backup lamps, I can't shake the thought that maybe this wasn't an accident. Maybe it wasn't even a storm or a mistake. Maybe somebody, somewhere, wanted the world to stop spinning the way it has, and they've succeeded. Because right now, in this moment, we are living like we did 100 years ago. Only difference is we've forgotten how. I'll tell you something else. People with old tools, with wood stoves, with oil lamps, they're the ones sitting calmer tonight. I passed by an old man on 17th Street. His house still smelled of kerosene. His windows still glowed faintly with a lantern. He said he never trusted electric lights, and for the first time in decades, he's the one who looks prepared. Meanwhile, the rest of us, with our refrigerators full of spoiled food and dead smartphones clutched in our hands like useless relics, we're the ones staring at him with envy. If you're hearing me, take a deep breath. Don't waste your energy. Protect your water. Protect your food. And remember that quiet doesn't mean safety. It means people are conserving themselves for what comes next. And what comes next may be darker than anything we've seen yet. This is Jack Daniels, 103.7 FM. I'll be here as long as this generator keeps coughing out its rhythm. If you're out there, if you're scared, if you're listening in the dark, know this: you're not the only one awake. It's creeping up on 2 in the morning now, and the temperature's dropped low enough that I can see my breath hanging in the studio when I exhale. The walls are thin here, and with no central heat running, the chill slips in like it owns the place. I've wrapped myself in an old army blanket I found in the storage closet, the kind that smells like mothballs and dust, but it keeps me from shaking too much when I talk. Every sound seems sharper now. The scratch of my pen on paper when I jot down notes, the way the generator's hum changes pitch when it struggles, even the drip, drip, drip of condensation pooling under the window frame. When the grid died, it didn't just take the light. It took the warmth, the hum of background comfort we never noticed until it was gone. I keep thinking about the moment this started. The first hours when the lights snapped out, people laughed. I heard it from this booth. People in the apartments across the street cheering like it was a snow day. Candles were lit, songs were sung, neighbors calling across the darkness like it was a game. By the second hour, the laughter thinned out. By the fourth, the shouting began. Arguments on sidewalks, fights over who owned what, panic in the grocery aisles. By the time dawn came, the cheer had bled away, leaving only fear. It didn't take days for order to crack. It took hours. That's how close to the edge we really live, and nobody realized it until the lights didn't flick back on. I've been piecing together scraps of information. Yesterday, someone I trust swore they heard a shortwave broadcast from upstate New York. Someone claiming the blackout stretched past the Canadian border, all the way into Ontario and Quebec. Another man told me his cousin in Chicago had managed to get a few seconds of a text out before his phone battery died for good. Same story there. Dead grid, silent officials. That means this isn't just Philly. This isn't just the East Coast. This is all of North America, maybe the world. And if that's true, then we are on our own. No cavalry coming over the hill, no government convoys rolling in with fuel and water. Just us, fumbling in the dark. I walked past City Hall this afternoon. The place was deserted, not even guards at the doors. The big clock tower loomed over me, hands frozen in place from the moment the power failed. The flags hung limp, no breeze to stir them. It hit me then, harder than anything else, that all the symbols of control, of authority, We're just empty shells without the current running through their veins. The city isn't being governed anymore. It's just existing, abandoned, like a ship adrift without a captain. There's been talk among the people I've run into. Some say it was an EMP, some kind of high-altitude detonation that fried the grid clean across the continent. Others whisper about cyber war, foreign hands pulling the plug to cripple us without firing a shot. And there are darker theories too, that this was done by our own. A controlled collapse meant to wipe the slate clean, to force a reset. I don't know which one is true. All I know is that the silence from every official channel makes each theory feel more possible. Because if there was help, if there was a plan, wouldn't we have heard something by now? I haven't heard from my brother since the first night. He lives out in the suburbs near King of Prussia. The last thing he said to me was that he was going to the Wawa to get supplies. That was 3 days ago. Every time I think of him, I picture him standing in a line that never moved, holding a basket of food that never made it back to his kitchen. If you're listening, Mark, I'm still here. I'll keep talking until you find this frequency. I don't know how much longer we can pretend this is temporary. Food in the freezers is gone. Gas pumps won't work without power. Hospitals have burned through their backup fuel already. I heard one near South Street had to turn people away, their machines dead, patients left to fend for themselves in the hallways. That's the truth of where we are now. No cavalry, no cure, just the raw edge of survival, stripped down to whatever we can carry and whoever we can trust. If you're hearing my voice tonight, take this seriously. Stay small, stay quiet, and don't put your faith in someone coming to fix this, at least not soon. Gather what you can, keep your radios tuned low, and guard your strength. The grid is gone, and with it, the illusion that someone else was in charge. It's just us now, scattered voices in the dark. This is Jack Daniels, 103.7 FM, still alive, still speaking. If you're alive out there too, keep listening. We're not finished yet, not as long as one of us still has a voice. It's nearing 4 a.m, and I've been staring out the studio window for so long my eyes ache. Philadelphia isn't just dark anymore, it looks hollow. Whole blocks that once pulsed with life are nothing but black outlines against the night sky. The tallest towers downtown used to blink with red warning lights for planes, but now they stand like dead trees, their edges swallowed by shadow. I never realized how much comfort came from the constant hum of the city, until all of it stopped. Now every creak, every pop of settling wood in the walls makes me jump like it's a footstep in the hall. Earlier, I caught movement down on Spring Garden Street. A cluster of people dragging carts piled high with whatever they could scavenge. They moved quiet, almost like a funeral procession, their shadows stretching long in the moonlight. At the back, a man carried a gas can. I couldn't tell if it was full or empty, but I know what it meant. Fuel is already the new gold. Without it, generators die. Without generators, hospitals can't function. Radios go silent. Food rots faster. People used to argue about stocks and money. Now it's diesel, water, and calories. Everything else is worthless. The silence from the government gnaws at me. It's the third night, and not one official word. No emergency tone, no message on the National Weather Service channel, not even a scrap of recorded reassurance. I've spun the dial up and down the spectrum until my fingers cramped, but all I find is static. I don't want to say it out loud, but I have to. Maybe they can't reach us. Maybe their equipment is as dead as ours. Or maybe they've gone dark on purpose because they don't know what to say. That possibility is worse. Because if they're silent by choice, it means they've already decided we're on our own. Some of the old-timers were right all along. I passed by a row house on 19th earlier, and through the cracks in the boards I could see the glow of a kerosene lamp. The family inside had wood stacked neatly against the wall, water jugs lined up by the door, blankets nailed over the windows. They weren't panicking. They were surviving. Meanwhile, the rest of the city, the ones who lived off Uber Eats and Amazon, are wandering the streets in shock, holding dead phones like relics from another world. I never thought I'd envy the stubbornness of people who refuse to modernize, but here I am, wishing I had listened to them when I had the chance. I've been turning over the theories in my head. A cyber attack still makes the most sense. Everything failed too cleanly, too simultaneously. A storm can't do that. An earthquake can't do that. Even an EMP wouldn't explain the precision. But there's another thought I can't shake. What if this wasn't just sabotage? What if this was meant as a test? Shut down the grid, watch how we react, learn our weaknesses, then strike harder once we've eaten through ourselves. It sounds paranoid. But then again, 3 nights ago it would have sounded paranoid to say the entire continent would be in the dark. I can feel the fatigue hitting me now. My voice is slower, my hands stiff with cold. But I can't stop. Not yet. Because if I go quiet, then maybe someone out there who's listening, someone clinging to this last thread of connection, thinks they're alone. And that's the most dangerous thing right now. Believing you're the last one alive. You're not. I'm here. I'm speaking. And if you're listening, then you're surviving too. This is Jack Daniels, 103.7 FM, from a darkened Philadelphia. The grid is gone, but the signal isn't. Not yet. Stay awake. Stay cautious. Dawn is a few hours away, but until then, we walk together through this dark. It's a little after 5 in the morning now, and the edge of dawn is just starting to bleed into the horizon. The city is caught in that gray hour, where everything looks blurred and uncertain, as if the world hasn't decided yet whether to keep breathing. From up here in the studio window, I can make out the black shapes of rooftops stacked against each other like teeth. No lights, no smoke, no signs of life. Just the pale outline of a city that used to be alive. The quiet is heavier now than it was during the night. At least darkness gave people a reason to whisper, to move, to scavenge under cover. Morning shows just how empty everything has become. I stepped outside for a while before coming back on air. The streets were scattered with remnants from the night. Burned out trash bins, broken bottles, scraps of paper blown into corners. On one block, someone had tried to start a fire in a shopping cart, and the metal was warped, melted, as if even fire itself had decided it couldn't stand in this place for long. I saw a pair of sneakers hanging from a power line, swaying back and forth in the cold breeze. That used to be just a city symbol, a prank, a sign of youth. Now it feels like a marker, like someone left it there to remind us that electricity isn't coming back. I walked past a deli I used to grab sandwiches from after late shifts. The windows were shattered, shelves ransacked, meat rotting behind the counter. Someone had painted words across the glass in thick black spray paint. We are on our own. The letters dripped like blood. Whoever wrote it must have felt the weight of this collapse pressing down, the truth sinking in. They weren't wrong. We are on our own now, each block becoming its own kingdom, each group deciding what rules to follow. The few people I did see this morning had that look in their eyes, hollow, searching, like their thoughts were already days ahead, wondering where the next meal would come from, how many nights they could last. One man was carrying a metal pipe like a cane, but his shoulders were squared, not bent. It wasn't for walking. It was for protection. A mother pushed a stroller piled not with a child, but with jugs of water and bags of bread. Her real child walking behind her barefoot, clutching a stuffed toy that had lost one eye. No one spoke to each other. The time for words seems to be slipping away. There's a rumor now, more than a rumor I think, that martial law has been declared. Not that anyone's seen soldiers in the city, but people claim they've heard announcements on loudspeakers near the edge of town, trucks with generators rolling past highways outside Philadelphia. The message, they say, was simple. Stay where you are. Do not attempt to travel. Supplies will be delivered. But I've seen no supplies, just silence. If that announcement was real, it feels less like help and more like a warning. Don't move, don't gather, don't resist. I don't know if this silence is fear or strategy, but it's breaking people faster than the dark ever could. Fear leaves gaps, and in those gaps, stories multiply. Some people say foreign troops are already on the ground. Others think it's a government experiment, that the blackout was triggered to see how long we'd last without the grid. Still, others are starting to mutter about divine punishment, about God pulling the plug on a world that grew too arrogant. I don't buy that last one. But when the lights vanish this completely, I understand why people start reaching for explanations that aren't of this world. The air smells different now. Without cars, without the constant burn of exhaust, it smells like smoke, like damp stone, like sweat. The mechanical layer of life has been stripped away, and what's left is raw, human, and frightening. It's like the city itself has reverted to something primal. If you're hearing me, know this. Dawn doesn't mean safety. It just means the dark shifts its shape. Daylight will show you the emptiness and the hunger that's been waiting patiently through the night. Protect your water. Protect your people. And don't be fooled into thinking the silence means peace. It means people are waiting, watching, deciding how desperate they're willing to become. This is Jack Daniels, 103.7 FM. I'm still here, and as long as this signal can cut through the static, I'll remind you, you are not alone in this dark. It's just after 6 in the morning now, and the first true light of day has spilled across the rooftops. For a moment, I thought maybe it would feel like relief. Sunlight breaking through after a long night of silence. But it doesn't. It feels harsher somehow, like the daylight is pulling the mask off everything we've tried not to look at. You can see the abandoned cars more clearly, lined bumper to bumper on the roads like a graveyard of machines. You can see the trash piling up on corners, bags torn open by rats that scatter when you get too close. You can see the faces of people stumbling down sidewalks with empty backpacks, eyes bloodshot, lips cracked from thirst. The night hides our weakness, but the morning lays it bare. From this window, I can see the Schuylkill glinting in the distance, silver under the rising sun. People are already gathering there, their shapes clustered along the banks. Some are kneeling to scoop water with bottles and pots. Others are filling buckets, balancing them carefully as they start the long walk back. A man was shouting at a woman when I passed by earlier, claiming she'd cut in line, his voice echoing off the river like a gunshot. He shoved her, and she dropped her container, the water spilling into the dirt. She just stared at him, like she couldn't decide whether to cry or to fight back. In the end, she walked away, empty-handed. That's the kind of world this blackout is shaping. A spilled bucket of river water is a reason to start a war now. The food situation is collapsing even faster than the water. I stopped by a supermarket on Girard this morning, one of the big ones with glass fronts. The shelves inside were stripped bare. What's left is scattered across the floor. Bags of flour ripped open, boxes of pasta stomped into dust, broken jars sticky underfoot. People had been there in the night, taking everything they could carry, and what couldn't be carried was destroyed in the scramble. A young man was sitting on the curb outside, eating dry oats straight from the box with his hands. He looked at me as if daring me to take it from him. I didn't. I just kept walking. I keep thinking about the systems that held everything together, how quickly they've all vanished. Hospitals ran out of fuel for their generators 2 nights ago. Pharmacies have been ransacked, their shelves stripped of antibiotics, insulin, painkillers. Police stations aren't patrolling anymore, at least not here in Philly. I saw one cruiser parked near Vine Street, its windows smashed, the inside gutted. No officers, no order, just an empty shell of authority. When the lights went, so did the structure that kept the city breathing. Without it, everything collapses into fragments. There's talk now of people heading west, leaving the city altogether. I passed a family with backpacks and a shopping cart, pushing it slowly down the road toward the expressway. They told me they'd heard there were camps being set up in Lancaster, powered by generators, guarded by the National Guard. They didn't know if it was true, but hope is a powerful drug. It'll keep people moving even when their feet are raw and their stomachs are empty. Maybe they'll make it. Maybe they'll collapse by the side of the road, like so many others I've seen. But the rumor of safety, of order, is enough to keep them walking. I've been turning the dial on this board, listening for even the faintest scrap of another broadcast. Nothing. Just the hiss of empty air. If I'm the only voice left on this side of the grid, then I'll keep speaking until this generator runs dry. But the silence weighs heavy, heavier than I can describe. It's not just the silence of machines, but the silence of authority, of leadership, of connection. It's the silence of being abandoned. If you're listening, remember this. Don't waste energy chasing rumors. If you leave, know where you're going and why. If you stay, fortify your space and ration everything. Trade will come back, but it'll be brutal and sharp-edged, built on survival, not kindness. Trust lightly, but don't let yourself drift into isolation, because alone, you won't last long. This is Jack Daniels, 103.7 FM, and I'll be here as long as my voice can carry. We're in the dark, but we're still here, and for now, that has to be enough. It's just after 7 in the morning now, and the sun is up enough to flood through the window, but it doesn't warm the room the way it used to. Without heat, without that low electrical hum running through the walls, the building feels like stone, cold and heavy, like it's reminding me how temporary everything we built really was. Out there on the streets, the day has already begun, but it's not the kind of day we used to know. It's not coffee shops opening early, buses hissing down Broad Street, or kids laughing on their way to school. It's scavengers with backpacks, families pushing carts of water, and neighbors arguing over what little they still have left. I walked farther than usual this morning, toward Fairmount Park. I thought maybe the green would feel like an escape, a place untouched by the blackout. But it wasn't. Dozens of people were gathered there, standing in circles, building little fires out of branches and trash. Some had tents pitched already, old camping gear dragged out of garages and basements. One man was teaching a group how to purify water with nothing but a plastic bottle and sunlight, showing them how to cut the bottom off and angle it like a funnel. It was rough, improvised, but they listened to him like he was a prophet. That's what survival does. It turns whoever has knowledge into a leader, and whoever doesn't into followers. But even there, I felt tension, the kind you can almost taste in the air. People eyeing each other's supplies, clutching bags tight to their chests, keeping their backs to their own family. I watched a fight break out over something stupid, half a loaf of bread, maybe less. One man swung a stick, the other tackled him, and it ended with both limping off in opposite directions, blood on their faces. No police to break it up, no one to mediate, just raw hunger, raw fear. The rumors are spreading faster than the truth. A woman I spoke to near the park swore she heard helicopters over New Jersey in the night. No lights, just the sound of rotors. Another man said he saw soldiers on the highway near Trenton, blocking people from leaving the city. No one can prove any of it, but the stories keep coming, and every time I hear one, it's like the silence from the government gets louder. If they were still in control, wouldn't they want us to know? Wouldn't they tell us where to go, what to do, how to hold on? Instead, all we've got are whispers and static. I stopped at a corner where a payphone still stands. The handset dangled, swinging in the breeze, useless. I pressed my ear to it anyway, half expecting a dial tone. Nothing. Just the hollow emptiness of a system that isn't coming back. It's strange how quickly we're stripped of connection. We built entire lives on signals, Wi-Fi, cell towers, satellites, and now they're gone, and we're left with the oldest form of communication there is. Voices in the air, carried by radio waves. And I'll keep speaking as long as I can because silence kills faster than hunger. The more I think about it, the more I believe this wasn't a random collapse. The way everything went down at once, the way the grid didn't even flicker before dying. It feels too clean, too precise. Maybe it was an attack. Maybe it was sabotage. Or maybe it was a test. The kind you run when you want to see how far a society can fall before it tears itself apart. Whatever it was, we're living the results now. If you're hearing me, hold on to what you've got. Keep your groups small. Share, but don't give everything away. Watch the people around you. Fear makes good people dangerous, and hunger makes them desperate. And if you find old tools, old skills, anything from before electricity ruled our lives, guard them like treasure. Because right now, the world belongs to those who remember how to live without wires. This is Jack Daniels, 103.7 FM. Philadelphia is dark, North America is silent, but the signal is still alive. Don't let the silence fool you. You're not alone out there. It's a little after 8 in the morning, and the streets outside have changed again. In the daylight, it's easier to see just how quickly the city is unraveling. People aren't moving in panic anymore, not the way they did on that first night when everyone ran in every direction. Now they move with something colder, purpose. I can see it in the way groups travel together, 2 or 3 men at a time, their eyes scanning the sidewalks, their arms weighed down with whatever they've pulled from stores or abandoned homes. Survival has taken the place of fear, and survival makes people harder. I walked east this morning, toward the river. Market Street looked like a war zone. Shop fronts ripped apart, glass crunching underfoot, mannequins lying in the street with their heads missing. A pharmacy on the corner was gutted completely. Shelves ripped bare, drawers overturned, the floor littered with pill bottles cracked open and emptied. I saw a man outside the store with his hands trembling, clutching a bottle of insulin to his chest like it was gold. He didn't even look at me, just sprinted off into the shadows. That's the kind of world we're in now. Medicine is treasure. Food is currency. Water is life. The strange thing is how fast the city's rhythm has shifted. Without the hum of traffic, without the vibration of trains, you can hear everything. The scrape of footsteps on pavement, the creak of bicycles as people ride down empty streets, the hollow thud of doors being forced open. Every sound cuts sharper, and when there's nothing, no movement at all, the silence grows thick enough to choke on. People are starting to organize themselves, but not in the way we'd hope. Near 12th and Vine, I saw a group standing guard outside a boarded-up building, armed with bats and crowbars. They didn't say what they were guarding, but it was clear enough. They'd claimed it, whatever it was, and no one else was getting near. On the wall behind them, someone had spray-painted in big black letters, "Our block." That's how it begins. Not nations, not governments, not even cities, just blocks, one by one, cutting themselves off, deciding who belongs and who doesn't. I keep thinking back to the systems that used to seem so solid. Power grids, water lines, hospitals, banks, pillars holding up everything we believed was unshakable. All it took was 3 days without electricity for them to vanish like smoke. And in that vacuum, it isn't experts or leaders stepping up. It's whoever has food, water, or fuel. They're the ones with power now. There's another rumor going around, one that keeps resurfacing no matter who I talk to. Some say the blackout was triggered to reset society, to bring us back to basics, to force people to live smaller lives again. I don't know if I believe that, but I can see why it spreads. Because in just a few days, we've been dragged back a century. Wood stoves, kerosene lamps, buckets of water. Maybe whoever did this knew how fragile we'd become. Maybe they counted on it. I don't know what's happening beyond this city, but I can imagine it. New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. Millions of people stranded in the dark, clawing for scraps the same way we are here. And if that's true, then what comes next will be bigger than just one city tearing itself apart. What comes next will be the collapse of everything we thought was permanent. If you're listening right now, here's what I'll tell you. Don't wait for help. Don't expect trucks full of food to come rolling in. Prepare to survive with what you have, and prepare for the moment someone else tries to take it from you. Find people you trust. Guard them like your life depends on it, because it does. And never forget, this is just the beginning. This is Jack Daniels, 103.7 FM. The grid is gone. The silence is spreading. But if you can hear me, then you're still alive. And as long as you're alive, you still have a chance. It's now just after 9 in the morning, and the daylight is harsh against this dead city. Without the buzz of neon or the glow of billboards, without cars and buses clogging the streets, Philadelphia looks older than I've ever seen it, like the skeleton of some forgotten ruin. The sky is clear, sharp blue, but it only makes the emptiness stand out more. You'd think daylight would make things safer, but all it really does is show you the damage, the emptiness, the desperation etched into every cracked window and every hunched figure moving through the streets. I took a walk down Broad earlier. The silence was broken only by the clatter of carts and the occasional bark of a dog that nobody bothered to quiet. Whole blocks had been stripped. I saw what used to be a convenience store. Gutted, shelves tossed like bones. Out front, 2 kids no older than 10 were trading what little they had. One clutching a pack of ramen noodles, the other holding a lighter. That's what trade looks like now. Small, desperate, uneven. Childhood isn't childhood anymore. Not when the only thing you can think about is how to stretch your next meal. The smell is different now, too. Without garbage collection, the streets reek of spoiled food. Mixed with smoke from fires, people are burning just to cook. I walked past a row of row houses where the windows were blackened, not from the blackout, but from soot crawling up the brick. People are burning furniture, burning scraps of wood, anything to make heat and boil water. That smell of desperation clings to you long after you've left it behind. I saw something else this morning that's harder to shake. On Callow Hill, a man stood in the middle of the street, yelling at the sky. His arms were raised, his voice hoarse from screaming. He shouted that the government had abandoned us, that God had abandoned us, that this was the end of days. Nobody tried to calm him. Nobody even looked twice. They just walked past, like his breakdown was nothing unusual. That's how numb people are becoming already. Madness is just part of the landscape. Theories are turning into stories, and stories are turning into gospel. Some are convinced this was a foreign strike, that we're in the middle of a silent war we can't see. Others are sure it was a solar flare, the sun reaching down and frying every system at once. But the darker whispers. They say it wasn't the sun, it wasn't foreign powers. It was us. That someone inside this country flipped the switch and left us in the dark on purpose. I don't know which theory terrifies me most, but I do know this. If it was intentional, then whoever did it knew exactly what would happen. They knew it would take less than a week for us to start devouring ourselves. Hospitals are shutting down completely now. I heard it firsthand from a nurse I met near Spring Garden. She said they turned people out into the streets yesterday. Patients still hooked to IV poles, machines dead, nothing left to keep them alive. She cried when she told me, but she kept walking, because what else is there to do? You can't save everyone. Some days, it feels like you can't save anyone. The only voices left are the ones like mine, carried over old radios and battered receivers. Everything else has gone quiet. No texts, no calls, no internet, no government bulletins. Just static, until my voice cuts through. And that's why I'll keep talking. Because silence is worse than fear. Silence makes you believe you're alone, and alone is how people break. If you're out there listening, hear me. Don't give up. Stock what you can. Share, but don't bleed yourself dry. Stay small, stay cautious, and don't wait for rescue that may never come. The world we knew is gone, but you're still here, and that means there's still a way forward, even if it's one painful step at a time. This is Jack Daniels, 103.7 FM. The grid is gone, the city is crumbling, but my voice is still here. If you can hear it, then so are you, and that's enough to keep going. It's just past 10 in the morning, and the city feels like it's holding its breath. In daylight, you'd expect movement, noise, life pushing forward even in the face of collapse. But what I see out there is hesitation. People drifting like shadows, carrying bags too heavy for them, stopping every few steps to look over their shoulders. No one walks with purpose anymore. They walk like prey. I made my way down toward the 30th Street station earlier. That place used to be a cathedral of movement. Trains sliding in and out, people rushing with coffee in their hands, the sound of announcements echoing across the marble. Now it's silent. The doors hang open, the hallways dark. A few hundred people have turned it into a camp, spreading blankets across the floor, building fires in metal bins. The air inside was thick with smoke and body heat, a sharp contrast to the cold stone. I heard a baby crying somewhere in the crowd, its wail bouncing off the walls, unanswered. No one even looked up. They've all gone numb to it. There were whispers in that station too, Rumors of help. Someone claimed they heard trains moving at night, government trains running on some secret line. Others swore they saw soldiers moving in convoys along the river. People cling to those whispers because the truth, that there may be no help at all, is unbearable. But I've learned to listen closely. None of them had proof. Not one. Just stories passed from mouth to mouth, hope stretched thin until it looks like fact. And hope is dangerous when it makes you walk toward a lie. The desperation is showing itself in other ways now. At a corner near 22nd Street, I saw a group surrounding a man. He was on the ground, clutching a sack of rice. They were kicking him, tearing at the bag until it split, grains spilling into the gutter. And here's the part that'll stick with me. They scraped the rice off the filthy ground with their bare hands and stuffed it into their mouths. That's how far we've fallen in just 3 nights. People are eating out of the street. I don't say these things to scare you if you're listening out there. I say them because you need to understand how fast this is unraveling. If you think you have more time, you don't. If you think this is temporary, it isn't. Not in the way you hope. The systems that kept us alive, food delivery, water treatment, medical care, they were fragile, and they're already gone. There's no cushion left. The floor has dropped out beneath us. I've been trying to hold myself together, but the fatigue is sinking in. My voice feels heavier each hour, my chest tighter. I haven't eaten since yesterday morning, just sips of water from the jug I keep in the corner. I tell myself to ration it, to save it, because once it's gone, I don't know when I'll find more. And yet I keep talking. Because if this broadcast reaches even one person, if it keeps one person from drinking bad water or walking into a mob, then it's worth burning the energy I don't have. I need you to remember something. Silence doesn't mean safety. If your neighborhood is quiet right now, it's not because people are calm, it's because they're conserving, waiting, planning. And when their hunger outpaces their patience, they'll move, and they'll move hard. Be ready for that. Prepare before they do. This is Jack Daniels, 103.7 FM, and I'll keep speaking as long as there's fuel in the tank. If you're out there in the dark, don't give up. We're not gone yet. It's just after 11 in the morning, and the sun is high now, glaring down on a city that doesn't know what to do with daylight anymore. Usually by this hour, the sidewalks would be crowded, horns blaring, buses sighing to a stop, food trucks lining up on the corners. Now the streets are bare except for a few figures hunched under backpacks or pushing grocery carts loaded with scavenged goods. They move quickly, heads down, as if the sun itself is watching them. I walked further out this morning, past the art museum, hoping to get a clearer view of the river. From the steps, the city stretched out like a carcass, bridges littered with stalled cars, neighborhoods still and lifeless. The skyline looked like teeth, jagged and black against a cloudless sky. And it hit me that this is what collapse really looks like. Not fire raining down from the heavens, not monsters in the streets, just silence, emptiness, and the slow unraveling of everything we thought couldn't break. On the way back, I saw something that made my stomach twist. A woman was standing outside a shuttered pharmacy with her teenage son, pounding on the locked door as if someone inside could still help. She shouted that he needed his medication, that he couldn't go without it. When no one answered, she smashed the glass with a rock. But there was nothing left inside. Shelves stripped bare days ago. She collapsed on the floor, sobbing, while the boy just stared blankly at the empty racks. That's when it really sank in for me. How many people won't survive this? not because of violence, but because the fragile chain of medicine, of care, was broken in an instant. People are improvising now. On a corner near Fairmount, a group had set up a makeshift barter table. Cans of food on one side, candles and batteries on the other. One man was trading a half-empty bottle of Advil for 2 jugs of water. Another swapped a bag of rice for a box of matches. It wasn't friendly, not really, but it was controlled. Until someone tried to take without giving, and fists started flying. I didn't stay to see how it ended. I've seen enough fights already to know it doesn't take much for order to collapse. The theories keep swirling. Someone told me this morning they believe the grid was taken down on purpose, not by an enemy, but by those in power, like pulling a reset switch to force the country into submission. Others are convinced it's a war, that we're already occupied and don't even realize it yet. Still, others cling to the idea of a solar flare, because at least then it feels like an act of nature, not malice. But whatever the cause, the effect is the same. We are cut off. And in the silence left behind, people are inventing their own truths to fill the void. I can feel myself getting more tired by the hour, not just in my body, but in my mind. The weight of all this silence, all this waiting, it wears you down. But I keep talking because I know somewhere out there, someone has their radio tuned in, clinging to this voice, needing to know they're not the only one awake in the dark. That's why I'm still here. If you're listening, remember this. Guard your supplies, guard your people, and guard your mind. Panic will eat you alive faster than hunger. Don't waste energy chasing every rumor. Stay grounded, stay cautious, and above all, stay human. This is Jack Daniels, 103.7 FM. The grid is gone. The world is shrinking into silence. But as long as this signal reaches you, you're not alone. It's just past noon now, and the sun is high enough to lay every crack of this broken city bare. Heat is already starting to rise off the blacktop, though without the usual roar of traffic, it feels unnatural, like the streets are cooking under a lid with no steam left to let off. From my window here, Philadelphia looks like it's been gutted. Buildings stand but feel hollow, the glass in their windows reflecting nothing but the sky. There's no motion, no noise beyond the scattered cries of gulls circling overhead, fighting over scraps that used to be ours. I forced myself to walk further this morning than I have before, to see what the city looks like as it unravels. I crossed over toward Fishtown, past blocks of row houses where people stood on stoops clutching whatever they could drag out of their kitchens. I saw one family boiling water in a cast iron pot over a fire made of broken chairs in the middle of the street. The air smelled of burnt varnish and desperation. A boy, about 12 years old, crouched next to the flames, holding a stick as if it was a sword, glaring at anyone who walked too close. That's what it comes down to now. Children standing guard over boiling water because no one else will. The grocery stores are stripped, pharmacies too. Even the bodegas have been picked clean of chips, soda, and lottery tickets. I stopped in front of one, its door hanging off the hinge, and inside it was nothing but scattered cardboard and dust. It looked less like a store, and more like a memory. Outside, a woman was selling single cans of soup from a crate at $5 each. Not in cash, because what's the use of paper now, but in trade. Batteries, lighters, cigarettes. She had the hard eyes of someone who knows her little stash makes her a target, and I don't think she'll last long standing out in the open like that. There are whispers that a convoy came through the suburbs last night. Trucks with military markings, moving slow, running on their own generators. Some people say they were handing out rations. Others swear they were taking people, loading them into trucks and driving west. No one knows where, no one knows why, and with no official word, no emergency stations broadcasting, all we have are these stories carried mouth to mouth, twisted in the telling. I don't know if any of it is true, but I know this. If the government still has power somewhere, they're not sharing it with us here. What I can confirm is that desperation is rising like the tide. On Girard Avenue, I saw 3 men wrestling over a gas can, rolling in the dirt, fists pounding. When one of them finally broke free with it, the other 2 didn't even give chase. They just slumped there, staring at the empty space where hope had been. I don't know if the can was even full. People are fighting for shadows now. And here in the studio, with the hum of the generator filling the silence, I can't escape the thought that I'm only a step away from them. I've got maybe a few days' worth of fuel left if I stretch it. A drum in the closet, a half can in the shed out back. After that, this voice goes silent too, unless I find another way. I've been rationing my water, stretching the food I stashed here long before this blackout. Crackers, cans of beans, a little jerky. But every bite I take, I know it's one less tomorrow. And yet, I keep talking, because maybe these words are worth more than the food itself. If you're listening to me now, don't waste the daylight. Use it. Fill every container you own with water, because there's no promise the taps will keep flowing. Gather what you can carry. Learn to cook on wood, because gas and electricity aren't coming back. And trust carefully. A neighbor can become a thief in an instant when hunger gnaws deep enough. But don't isolate yourself completely either. Alone, you'll vanish faster than anyone will notice. This is Jack Daniels, 103.7 FM, from a powerless Philadelphia. The grid is gone, but the signal is still alive. As long as I can feed this machine, you'll hear me. And if you hear me, then you're not alone in this. Not yet.